What's going on, everyone? Austin John Plays here, and today we're going to be talking about a Nintendo Switch Pro controller with paddles. Now, it's been a hot minute since I've reviewed any sort of controller for the Nintendo Switch, mostly because, I've done many videos when the Nintendo Switch was in its infancy. I came to the conclusion that the Nintendo Switch Pro controller, the official one, this one is a custom paint shop by Colorware, is hands down just the best controller. It feels good, amazing battery life, it has a beautiful hand grip, the button functionality is amazing, the shoulder buttons are clicky, everything you want in a controller already exists in the Pro controller. But then PowerA announced that they were going to be making the Fusion. This is also an enormous box. Like, if you were to buy a headset, that's the size of this box compared to a Pro controller for scale. It caught me off guard by how big it was. That's what she said. Upon opening it up, you get this enormous case for your controller, which is adorable. And there was documentation in the bottom. I took that out. Inside of the case, there's a few things in here, including the swappable faceplates. I've only seen reviewed one other Nintendo Switch Pro controller sort of model that did have swappable faceplates, and it was by PDP, and it was sort of a budget controller that I didn't really recommend because there was a very high standoff for the buttons, the actuation points weren't good, there were several issues with it in it being a swappable faceplate controller. In my vast collection of third-party controllers, I don't. In fact, I only have one PowerA controller left, and that's their wireless one controller. It comes in just below the price of the Pro controller. I think it's like $50 as opposed to the Pro controller, which is $70. And it has these two programmable buttons down here, right? And this controller takes the idea to a whole nother level. And I had the face-off, and my problem with the face-off is that the faceplate made all the buttons just really, really high, so they all had very high actuation points. And also, when you're taking it off, it feels like you're ripping the plastic away. This is a magnetic faceplate. You just peel it away, and then you can just pop this on. Simple as that. For ability to see it on camera, I'm going to be continuing with the white faceplate. And the buttons aren't that high. In fact, if we were to compare the standoff of the buttons on the Switch Pro controller to this controller with the faceplate on, it's pretty much exactly the same. In fact, I think the buttons themselves are the exact same size, maybe slightly smaller. The minus, plus, screenshot, and home buttons are slightly raised compared to the Pro controller. The D-pad feels magnificent. It's not as tactile, like you're not going to hear anything when you're pressing down. Instead, I don't know, it feels amazing. There isn't any gooiness to it, okay? So get that out of your head. It's clicky, you know that you're pushing a direction, which feels good and you want that. The thumbsticks rest just ever so slightly higher than the regular Pro controller, which is a small gripe of mine because I have small hands. The shoulder buttons are just as clicky as the Pro controller, except they have this sort of curve off at the end and then this little lip up here. The first thing you notice when picking up this controller is the weight. This has fantastic weight, probably just slightly heavier than the Pro controller. Whether that has to do with these on the back, I'm not too sure. I have played with the charge that it came with for a solid 10 hours, and it still has not died yet. On the back, we have a USB-C, the sync button, and the sync LED. And on the bottom, we have the 4 ports, as well as a headphone jack. So back when it was a whole revolutionary thing, I don't think I have that controller anymore. Back when it was a whole revolutionary thing that we had a headphone jack coming through the controller, that has this built in. So you could be away from the system, plug your headphone jack in there, and I don't know if it supports microphone. Can we look that up real quick? It says that it is only an audio jack. It doesn't specify if it's microphone. I don't think it's microphone. It's just gonna be headset. Hey there, it's me again. So I was doing my due diligence and I'm in the middle of editing and I was messing around because I was like, I should test the headphone functionality to make sure, it actually works. And also, I don't remember any controllers allowing you to do wireless headsets. In fact, that's like a whole thing that's in the firmware that it may be coming up Bluetooth audio. So I was like, okay, well, let me figure it out. And then I look at the website, and the website specifically lists that it's only in USB mode. I'm not exactly too sure how you define a controller to be USB mode when it's docked, but what I did is I put my Switch in airplane mode, then used a USB-C cable using the default cable that it came with, the 10-foot cable going all the way to this controller, and then this controller plugged into my headset. This is a Astro A40, I think, using the TRRS being the triple black line, and plugging it in. It does not work. It doesn't make audio. You can hear the audio coming out of here. You can see in the top corner, we are in airplane mode. So I can't get this audio to work. I've tried a few things. I've tried different USB-C adapters. No idea. So it is now me interrupting me who is interrupting me. I did reach out to the PowerA team, and I explained everything that was going on with this headphone jack situation at the bottom, and they came to the conclusion that I must have a faulty headphone jack, as this is a new product. They haven't experienced that issue, and they've requested for me to actually send this back to them, and then of course they're going to send me another one. So supposedly this is supposed to be plug and play, like it is with that other wired controller that I reviewed in the past, that you just plug it in and it just works. In my experience, for every device that allows you to transfer sound via the USB, that's how it has been. So this is why it caught me so off guard that it didn't work properly. In addition, I also wanted to look up all the features of the regular Pro controller and just ensure that all of them are in this controller. There is rumble, but no HD rumble, okay? There is no, supposedly there is motion control. I don't know if it's a better accelerometer or whatever. And also there is no amiibo support. If that's a deal breaker for you, it's probably not. But the HD rumble could be a concern for some people. And also when you're charging more than the default Pro controller, you should have the things that it comes with. There may be some sort of patenting issue for third-party controllers to actually have HD rumble fully supported on the Nintendo Switch, or just it costs more money so they don't do it. I'm not sure specifically what it is, but I do know that there are some games that require you to feel how much vibration is going through the controller, and that could be an issue using this controller. In addition to the case, there is, I haven't even unwrapped this. What is this, like a 2-meter USB-C cable? Yeah, that's like 2 meters. That's a long cable. Probably, maybe even a little bit more than 2 meters. And it's a braided cable. It's a nice cable. I might start using this. And then it also has additional thumbsticks, which I haven't messed with at all. Oh, they're the exact same height. The difference is, the ones that it comes with has little grippies on the inside and an indent. The indent is similar to that you would find on the regular Pro controller. Meanwhile, this one is sort of a smooth thumbstick. The side is as smooth. Yeah, I know it's actually a little bit smoother than the regular Pro controller, but it has that flat grip top. I don't know if you have a preference of one or the other, but they give you both. They're the exact same height. I'm going to continue with the default ones because I like that grippiness, despite the fact that sometimes you get some finger crud in the middle of that. You know what I'm talking about. Now let's talk about the paddles here on the back. I keep wanting to say paddle shifters. These paddles, they're so sensitive and it feels good. Also, I normally play like this with one finger on the shoulder buttons, and then these two fingers are going to be the ones that are resting here, which I guess optimally, if you were a pro gamer or something, you would put all 4 fingers up here and then you would have it for these 2 fingers. But either way, my hands just fall to the location of all these buttons very well. So I don't find it being an issue. I think this comes from the fact that I don't play a lot of shooters. I keep just one finger up here. For the pack on the back, if you don't like it, you can remove it. There you go, lift it off. There's even a little cover in here that you can just put on top, locks in place, and then boom. Now it's pretty much just like a regular Pro controller, but with a headphone jack. So essentially, it's that headphone jack for $20 and swappable faceplates and thumbsticks. It really comes down to the fact that they're adding these paddles on the back. It is super easy to program by just holding down this button for 3, which puts it in a program mode. You choose which faceplate or shoulder button you would like to program, and then you can assign it to a controller. I have not tried mapping plus or minus yet. So these can lift up slightly. They're magnetic, so they come back down, but you can actually remove them. If, say for example, you only want 3 or 2, or even just 1 back here, you can do that. And I actually kind of prefer it this way. I'm not trained enough on using this style of controller yet to actually, have that finger memory of going between these two different buttons back here, but just having both fingers resting here, it works really well for my use case, being the first person shooter that I'm playing, which is Pokemon Snap. These you just put them in place and then they rest back in place. They are super easy to put in and take out. They're not gonna fall out, so don't be concerned about that. Right now I have mine assigned to the zoom in buttons, and then this is my shoot button, shooting pictures, and then this button I'm using for my turboing. So I could just go through a level and I could just hold the controller like this to just fly through the level, which, you know, it is a specific use case for new Pokemon Snap and probably not any real shooter games. The thing I can't get over is how much it feels exactly like a Switch Pro controller. And I love this Switch Pro controller. It's my favorite controller. I just use it all the time. I'm very, very rarely ever using the Joy-Cons. And of course, as opposed to the Joy-Cons, the Pro controller doesn't have Joy-Con drift or anything else, so it's not like we're combating that issue. The one pet peeve I have about this is that this is, golly, what do they market it as? These are anti-friction rings, okay? And I don't know what that means, but when I make full actuation from the thumbstick all the way down, it makes a click sound. And that is not present on the Pro controller. I mean, you hear the sound of it hitting the end, but this red circle is actually loose. So you're hearing the sound of this also then hitting the faceplate. And it's higher pitch and it's louder, so I'm afraid that it's going to show up in recordings. You're probably not going to be having that issue. If we were to look at the back, you could see that it's this separate ring that's just attached to the body with these little standoffs back here. I do like that you could swap between faceplates, because if you're doing a long gaming session and there's a feeling of your controller just gets warm to the touch and may cause your hands to sweat, you can swap between faceplates, and then, you know, you're gonna have a slightly cooler to the touch faceplate, which may be more pleasurable in the long term. The matte black is really nice. If you want like a real matte black controller, this is premium. It's sort of matte, sort of like a satin, which is weird. Of course, you have your gloss accents for the Switch logo and such. So, long story short, TLDR. Do I recommend this? This is a $99.99 controller, so it's $100 as opposed to this controller, which is $70. $30 more. What are we actually getting? We're getting two swappable faceplates. We're getting swappable thumbsticks that are smoother. These are quote-unquote Alps analog thumbsticks. I don't know what that means. And magnetic impulse triggers. I am not the person to tell you whether or not this is a better trigger. I know that for a fact, that I'm not qualified to tell you that. It seems like they have the same actuation point. So going down, you don't have to travel further or less. So I don't know if it's any better. These feel just as gooey. It's literally like PowerA makes the Pro controller and they just made their own. Like, they came so close to recreating the Pro controller that it's scary. Down to like the top has the exact same things. The bottom has the headphone jack. Sorry, to sum it up, you're getting the faceplates, the swappable thumbsticks, the 4 programmable buttons back here. I have not seen anything that says that you could program these to a turbo. Let's look over the documentation a little bit more, because that could be a selling point for some people. Maybe help you pick up some weeds in Animal Crossing. No, neither the guide nor the website say anything about this. Oh, it's a 9.8 foot cable. There we go. So I'm going to assume these are not turbo buttons. You cannot program them to be turbo or anything else. They just map to one of the already existing face or shoulder buttons. And of course, the headphone jack at the bottom, which for some people, that headphone jack may be worth $30 alone. You know, you can be away from the system, plug in the headphone jack, listen on your headphones while playing on a TV. If you're in an environment that maybe you're next to a sleeping spouse or something like that, that may be a necessity for you. But to have the feel of the really quality Pro controller mixed with that feature, that could be enough for some people. The programmable rear buttons, that kind of look like a little spider guy. Oh, I'm still messing around with this because, again, this is my first controller that's ever had these paddles. And it may be your first controller ever having these paddles. And it may just be a convenience thing, that if you're playing for long sessions, instead of finger fatigue of holding down these, or finger fatigue from holding down these, if you're doing that, you have the option to swap between this. You could program all 4 of these to be the aim button, and then, you still have your appropriate fire button. So instead of this finger, or say, for example, you have a handicap that makes it so some of your fingers don't work that well. Maybe on your left hand, you aren't able to hold down these buttons for long periods of time, and these can help support that. Those are my impressions / I don't know, kind of a review about the PowerA Fusion Pro wireless controller for Nintendo Switch White/Black. I'm going to leave a non-affiliated link down below to their website. If you want to go pick it up, go for it. If you have a specific use case that one of these features makes up for the fact that it's additional $30 on top of the Pro controller, go for it. Well, guys, thank you for checking out my video on the PowerA Nintendo Switch Fusion Pro wireless controller. If you found this video helpful, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button down below. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. Until next time, Austin John out.